As I said, if you'd like your own personal name tag, see Ed Stuckey before you leave today. And for $5, he'll have one made up for you. Raffle tickets, we'll be doing the raffle shortly. If you haven't got your tickets yet and you want, you could sneak back there. And if you're interested in buying some MWG apparel, you can see Ron Ross, who's also doing the food, but there's Ron. I know he had a big sale last month, delivered the goods today. And I see more and more fellas are wearing the shirts and stuff, so feel free to do that. Are there any members, any new members that are here for the first time? This is their first meeting. Oh, we'll get you, we'll get you. Can you just say hello and who you are?
Hello, my name is John McDonald. What else?
How long have you been a woodworker? What do you like to build?
I like to build. I've been working with wood for probably 40 years, self-taught, so I'm still learning. So do we all. What do I like to build? Depends on what my wife wants. But I've done multiple kitchens, milled and designed trim work for multiple homes.
Oh boy. That almost sounds professional.
Desperate. Trying to save money. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say the last thing my wife said when I was leaving today was, sell some of the wood you have. So if anybody's interested in cherry, I have it at an extremely attractive price.
Do you have it with you?
No. I live in Northville, so it's not far. And if you buy enough, I'll deliver. Probably $1 a foot.
Oh, wow.
And it's all
You want us all to file your home.
Yeah, well, let's put this where the pressure's on. I have a garage full of it.
You all heard that. Now, if you want, I'll give you my email address. You can send me an email, and I'll send a note out if you put the information in. You're not going to have that wood long.
Promise?
Do we promise? Is he going to have it long? No. It's going to go. It's going to go. That's going to be one of your first benefits of membership. Who else? See what happened if you talk a little bit.
Hi, yeah, Jeff Anderson. I've done woodworking in some form or other for 40 plus years.
Oh, okay.
Kinds of woodworking, whatever comes to hand. Musical instruments, house redecorating, a little bit of furniture, not much. Jigs and fixtures, yeah, whatever comes to hand.
Sounds like both of you are going to fit right in, joining at a good time. And watch our presentations, and you guys may be candidates for presentations on your own. That's how we do it. Great. Did I miss anybody? Anybody else first time? All right, any first time? Yeah. That's right. Hang on.
My name is Fred. I'm Adam's uncle here, and I've been a novice woodworker for about 35 years. I had to get in my workshop after I got married, so I just retired in August. And so I do a lot of small project stuff, nothing like major furniture. And I'm just here to look at techniques and ideas and so forth.
Make sure you look at the toys then.
Oh, yes, I have.
Talking small stuff.
Yeah, I do a little more than that, but yeah, a little
All
bit
right.
of stuff.
Well, that's 100 years of woodworking experience that just joined today. They're coming for their first time. That's great. All right, this meeting is going to be recorded on your YouTube, as we always do. Dave's doing the video work, and Kevin Goulet, who's on vacation in Arizona, puts the YouTube movie together and loads it on our YouTube channel. So in a week or so, you'll be able to see this meeting there.
This is mostly for you downriver guys. Homestead Hardwoods in Allen Park. I was there the other day, talked to the owner, and he gave me some current prices if anybody's interested. Hard maple, $2.75 a board foot. Walnut is $6 a board foot. Cherry, if you don't like the $1 a board foot price, you can spend $4 a board foot. And also, that would be for 6-quarter cherry, and 7-quarter maple and cherry is $4.25 a board foot. He also got a load of canary wood in, surfaced 3 sides. It was priced by the board. Most of the boards were 3 to 4 inches wide, about 4 foot long. And the prices were like $16 to $20 for a board. But it was beautiful looking stuff. And that's all I got.
Ed would like to make an announcement about an upcoming program.
Okay, there's a, when Santa River Institute was here last time, I talked to Carolyn, and they mentioned that they put some of their students into a furniture company called Vogue Furniture. Okay? And so she gave me a contact person there. Vogue Furniture is a establishment. It's in Royal Oak. It's on 14 Mile by Coolidge. They make high-ended, high-ended furniture and custom cabinets. I went on a tour on Thursday with them, a friend of mine, and it's 40,000 square feet. And they build they build custom furniture, custom cabinetry all over the United States. These are multi-million dollar operation, and these are expensive cabinets and furniture. And they use, besides wood, they use metal, glass, whatever they incorporate into the design. So I've arranged for a tour for the members, a tour on May the 15th, which is a Friday. And the reason it's on a Friday is because nobody's there on Saturday, or Sunday. So there will be people there. I mean, the shop will be operating. They hire, right now we got 50 employees working there. And so it's on May the 15th, Friday, from 9:30 to 11. Okay, and you can look up, it's called Vogue Furniture, VOGUE furniture.net. Go onto their website and see actually what they do. I think you'll be impressed, okay? And they're looking forward to members coming, and they can accommodate up to 40 people, okay? And we'll take 2 groups, we'll start one end. And this thing is huge. I mean, it's got to be the size of a football field, okay? And so they do all their own furniture, they do all their own veneering, they press their own boards, they have their own installation crews. It's a pretty fabulous organization. They've been around, I think, for about 30 years, 40 years. Okay? So I'm going to pass this around. We'll do this again. I think Jerry's going to send out an email too.
There'll be plenty of announcements.
So this is an early announcement, so I'll give you a heads up, okay? I'm sorry for the people who work on Friday. Maybe take a day off. There are too many levels of discrimination. So just fill out the information and we'll get that. Okay, any questions about that?
How do you spell that again, Ed?
Pardon? Vogue, V-O-G-U-E.
V-O-G-U-E.
Furniture.
Yeah, they have a website, I'm on it.
.net, okay? Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Ed. So that's in May. Our next regular meeting is April 12th. That meeting's going to be on pen turning. Ragnar Bergathon's going to lead that with a group of turners from here and some of your guests from, all from here. So, and you're going to have a lathe here, and it's going to be a live demo, and we're going to watch pens get turned. We saw an example of how much recipients like getting a pen. My goodness. That was round. Okay. Okay, Ed, tool raffle time. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prizes. Ed did his usual purchases, and one of our members today just donated two gifts, 2 prizes.
I donated this.
And Ed donated
My
one.
wife got me 2 of them, I don't need 2.
Okay. So the way we do it, Ed's going to pull 5 tickets. I'll call the numbers out. First one that I call, come up and pick whatever you'd like, and then so on down the line. First ticket, the last 4 numbers, 1918. Then 1861. Next number, 1822.
That's counter 6.
1886. Rich wins every month.
Come on, Rich.
But look at how many tickets he buys. And then 1832. Dennis, you want to mount that? Ron, you would.
We've been making, as a guild, toys and mock boxes for Detroit Children's Hospital since 1983, I think it is. It's something we hope to continue for a long time. We do need help. We fell a little bit short last year on the number we had, but we decided to stimulate you guys with some good discussion on what the hospital is all about. So today we have Alison Kowalski here from the hospital. She has a very unique role in the hospital, and she can tell you about that. She has a slide presentation that we'll be putting up. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask her.
Should I use both? Or is this mic? I'm not technological savvy.
Neither
Can
are
everybody
we.
hear me? Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, hello everyone. I am Alison. I'm a child life specialist at Children's Hospital Michigan in Detroit. A little bit about child life. We're going to do a little presentation. There are some slides we're going to skip through. This is our general overview of what child life is. But I personally work in the pediatric intensive care unit as well as the cardiovascular intensive care unit. So I see our very sick kids. As well, I also do transplants, so heart transplants and any type of open heart surgeries with kids. It's our beautiful hospital if you haven't seen it yet. You're good. We can skip this part. This is just a statement. We can skip this part too. So this is our child life team. These are where the wonderful toys and who are using them and distributing them to kids. So we have a manager who is in charge of all of us, and then we have child life on almost, I think, every one of our floors. So 6 West is our hematology, oncology, and nephrology. 5 West is endocrine, pulmonary, and neurology. 5 East is our burn, trauma, and rehab unit. And then we have the ICU, we have radiology and a urology clinic. We also have our hematology oncology clinic and then the emergency department. So we have child life all over our hospital and hoping to get more for same-day surgery, our cardio clinic, etc. But that's kind of a little bit about how many of us there are. Go ahead. We also have a facility dog. This is Pumpkin. She's new to us. She is employed by Children's Hospital Michigan, so although she may not get a paycheck, she does get weekly grooming. So I think that's pretty good for her. But yeah, she is an emotional support animal, so she helps through procedures with kids, and a lot of people have dogs at home, and so this is not another familiar normalcy that, oh, we have a dog at home, we have a dog here, comforting. So she's great. We love Pumpkin. This is some more of our team. We have a fellow, so in our bone marrow transplant, which is oncology. We have a project specialist who most of you might work with. Her name is Sinead. She is kind of in charge of all of our donations, grants, special events that we put on. We have assistants as well, a technology specialist. His job is literally to play video games with our kids in the hospital and fix any problems that we have with our technology. And then we also take students throughout the year, so always looking to get more into the field. We have more of our team. We have teachers, so obviously these kids who are long-term, they are missing out on that school experience, so we're able to do homework. So we have teachers who work with the schools and work with teachers. We have music therapists, art therapists. We're one of the only hospitals to have a yoga and meditation therapist. Build Up STEAM is actually building robots out of Legos. And then we have a reach out and read coordinator who helps provide books to the hospital, so they're free, the kids can take them home. And yeah, that's pretty much sums up our team, more of it. So our goals of Child Life. Through play, art, and music and learning, we use child-friendly toys, to reduce stress and anxiety experienced during hospitalization, increase positive coping skills for children and their family, and foster normal growth and development during hospitalization. One thing that kids all know how to do is play. That is like the one thing, no matter what culture you come from, what language you speak, if you put a toy in front of a kid, they know what to do with it and they're gonna play. So that is one thing that we do to help all those. So what is a Child Life Specialist? So a Child Life Specialist promotes effective coping through play, preparation, education, and self-expression activities. They provide emotional support for families and encourage optimum development of children facing a broad range of challenging experiences, particularly those related to healthcare and hospitalization. So these kids come in with a wide variety. It could be from just they have the flu to we're getting a heart transplant, and we go in and we talk to them about what's the hospital like, what are we doing here, but we explain it in child-friendly language in ways that they can understand. Because if you go to a 5-year-old and you tell them they have you have cancer, you're going to be started on this chemotherapy, they're going to look at you and be like, what? And like, so we come in and we explain like what's going to happen, what we're going to do, here's who's going to support you, and we kind of explain all of that through like words they understand. This is more, so a little bit more about what we do with diagnosis education. So if we have a new diabetic who comes in and we need to get them started, and obviously we're going to having to give a shot or a poke or any of those kinds of things. We explain what we're going to do with that and how we have to work on our insulin. We do family-centered care, so we want to incorporate family and siblings into the patient's care and making sure that everyone is still all in it together. We do bereavement and sibling support. Bereavements are deaths, so we do those. Those are what our beautiful boxes go to. Play. Preparation, we prep kids for surgeries, procedures. It could be as simple as an IV start to an MRI or a CT scan, and then procedural support. So if we're doing something bedsides, getting chest tubes removed, we're able to be there and help them cope through those experiences. Okay. We can skip this one, kind of overview. This is a good quote. Play is one of the most powerful and most effective tools used to reduce tension, anger, frustration, conflict, and anxiety, which are accompanied by the loss of control and self-esteem. When a kid goes to the hospital, they don't have much control of what is happening to them. So if we're able to put some cards in front of them, they know what they're doing, and that gives them their choice to be able to be like, ooh, I want to drive my car up the wall, or ooh, I want to throw it at something. Like, it gives them that control to like express themselves and express what's going on in the hospital. We can skip over these. These are, like I said, some more of the how we do procedural supports. Some comfort holds. This is diagnosis education. Play. We can stay here for a second. So obviously we are doing developmental milestones. Every kid, no matter what age, obviously we're developing something all the way up until our brains develop at the age of 25. So play is a big part of that. It helps reduce stress and anxiety. It provides positive sensory stimulation. So play is considered from using the trucks or using a stress ball or a poppet, some sensory items. We familiarize ourselves with medical equipment. I know we talked about how you guys actually made an MRI machine for us to be able to show kids what an MRI is like, and we're able to put a doll on, and then they are able to manipulate the toy. It helps facilitate therapeutic relationships. Sometimes being in the hospital, kids don't want to talk about what's going on. But if you put some crayons in front of them and ask them to draw their family, but they draw their brother on the outside, like by a tree by himself crying, then you're able to ask them, like, why did we draw brother there? Like, what's brother doing? Why is he sad? And then they're able to be like, well, brother's sad because I hit him with a ball. And so they're able to kind of express themselves. It works on communication, cognitive process, and overall motor skills as well. This is neurodivergent, so our kids who are maybe have developmental delays, global developmental delays, autism, etc. You're good to skip this one. You're good to skip this one. So our activity centers, so this is where our toys are mostly used. Activity centers allow these kids to step out of their rooms and go somewhere and just play and be a child and interact with kids their age who are also hospitalized and going through the same thing. Next, please. So this is one of them. This is our sibling treehouse. So sometimes right now, especially, we have restrictions on siblings. Like I said, I'm in the ICU, so if you're not above the age of 16, you cannot come to our ICU right now with flu, COVID, RSV, all of that going around. So sometimes you have younger siblings, you may not have a good family support and babysitters, so we are able to have, it's called Jack's Treehouse, and we're able to drop our siblings off there so mom or dad or whoever can go up and visit with their sick child. So this is a great place, and siblings love to be able to be in there. This is our 5th floor activity center. This is more geared towards our older patients. We kind of keep this more of like maybe like a teen hangout room. This is where they're able to go, they're painting, they're doing games. We have video games in this area, so the teens feel like they have somewhere to go as well. This is our library. So our library, kids and families are able to pick out books, movies, DVDs, and be able to take them back to their rooms. They get to take the books home. And this is just another space for families to enjoy. This is our 6th floor playroom. This is probably where the toys are used the most. This is geared towards our younger siblings or our younger patients. They are in here. It's fun. We have toys in every cupboard that they can pull out, they can take out. We have like more to this area over here, and there's a whole kitchen. There's actually like a tool bench, so they're able to create things as well. But they're able to go and pick out their own toys, and if we have kids who aren't able to come to the playroom, we're able to bring them toys from the playroom that they're able to keep in their room, and then some toys are able to be taken home with them as well. This is McKenna's Beauty Bar. This was a prior patient who unfortunately did pass away, but was very into makeup and beauty. She was an oncology child, so she did lose her hair, so makeup was one way to help her express herself and to feel pretty, not that she wasn't, but to help bring up her confidence a little bit. So when she did pass, her family did donate this space to us, and they keep it stocked with hygiene products for our families, care kits for caregivers who maybe are traveling far and can't go away or can't go out and get simple things like shampoo, body wash, etc. So this is a really great space that we have as well. This is our BMT playroom, where again more of the wonderful toys you guys offer are used. BMT kids are considered very high risk, so they cannot be around other children, other families, other patients. So they have their own playroom. That way they don't have to stay in their room all day and are able to go somewhere and still have that experience of play. And then these are just some special events that we put on throughout the year. If you guys are ever looking and would like to volunteer, we have Mr. Brian's Ice Cream Cart. He was a patient back in maybe like the 1970s, 1980s, and when he passed away of old age, I think at this point, he put in his will to have money donated back to the Children's Hospital for kids to have ice cream once a week, because that's what he enjoyed most when he was hospitalized. So we do Mr. Brian's Ice Cream Cart, I believe, twice a month, and then on his birthday we throw a huge celebration for all of the hospital to enjoy and ice cream. And then we do other things. We have bingo. That's a good one where toys are handed out. They win a bingo, they get a toy. And then we do spring baskets, Valentine's Day baskets, as well as Halloween, which is a really big one. But yeah, we're always doing something fun at the Children's Hospital. And then if you guys have heard about this, our snow pile. This is our biggest event, I would say, of the year. This is for our hospitalized families who may not be able to afford some gifts for their kids because of hospital restrictions, or be able to buy things for their other children that are at home. So these families are able to come down, we sit with their kid in the room, and then they're able to go and basically go through the toy store and pick out gifts and items for their children for Christmas, and then we wrap them. The caregivers get to enjoy some refreshments, some music, they get stocking stuffers, so that is another area where toys go. Yes, question in the back.
The snow pile stuff, is that all brand new stuff that you can donate for the
Yes,
toys?
this is all brand new stuff. So we have a lot of like businesses, groups who will put together toy drives throughout the holiday season, and in like we have like maybe a month time period where you can come and donate the toys, and then your group can come, we donate them, we can take a picture if you guys would like. But yeah, these are all brand new toys that the kids or the parents can pick up them.
Okay, and then you can find out the details on the website for that?
Yes, you can, or I can give you our project specialist's phone number and email. She's the one who is in charge of handling snow pile and
Okay.
events that we put on.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I know we did have some questions about like the age ranges we see. So at Children's Hospital we see kids all the way up from newborn. We do have a NICU, so these kids are hours old to up to actually age 25. And then they can be transferred to an adult hospital. So we do see kids from all ages. Now I know a lot of our toys do go towards our younger kids. I would say maybe around from like 2 to 12 is where I feel like is a good age. And then our teens, then they're teens, and they are always like, well, I don't want anything, I don't want this. So we always try to give them more options. I would say love what we're doing with the cars and the planes. I know I was speaking earlier, the Polly toys, those are really good ones to get our kids up and mobilized. And working on mobility. We always have a goal for them while they're there, especially, again, me being in the ICU, I have kids who have transplants, and actually like coming from a heart transplant, I would say maybe like 5 days post-op, we want to get you up and walking. So that is a great thing that these kids are able to pull with them, or they're able to roll them down and they got to like race the car down the hallway, or things like that. And then personally, again, being in the ICU, I do experience a lot of bereavements. This year already, I believe I've done 8. And so the wonderful memory boxes that you guys make goes towards that. So I will do memory making with the patient and the family and siblings. So that could look from anywhere from hand molds to, we do clippings of hair, we do a lot of handprints, footprints. We do heartbeat recordings before, if we had that chance and the opportunity to record their heart before they pass. So those go a long way, especially with me. I use them constantly. And I do have a really good story about one of the bereavement boxes. So I was working with a family, and they had 2 siblings. The patient unfortunately died, and so the siblings were having a hard time coping with what had just happened. It was very kind of unexpected. It was not something that we were obviously expecting to happen, and neither was the family. And so I was able to let mom and dad be with the child, and I was able to take the siblings, and we did memory making. And then we were able to take these memory boxes and go into like a private room, and we were able to talk about like our feelings, what's going on, what questions do we have about maybe death, and what that entails. But then they were able to decorate the bereavement boxes as well. So they were able to put things that maybe like reminded them of their sibling, and put that on the boxes as well. They were able to some have designs, and so they maybe were able to color the design that was on there in their sibling's favorite color. So we were able to do that and talk about the memories and all the funny stories that we had with our sibling, but also bring up those questions, because death is a lot of people like to dance around the word death and dying and things like that, but with children, the best way to talk about it is to be honest with what it is. And this was a way for these kids to express themselves and to ask questions about, like, why isn't my brother coming home, or where did he go? And so it is able to facilitate those conversations and bring up things that maybe they don't feel comfortable asking mom and dad right now, because they are also going through a mourning period. So we greatly appreciate everything that you guys do for us, and the toys go a long way. The kids love them, and definitely with the memory boxes, I use them. I personally will be using one tomorrow. I have a planned bereavement, so like I know in my head that I'm going to meet with these siblings. We're going to use the box and be able to talk about everything that's happening and what's going on. So I thank you and appreciate you guys all so much. Yes.
Yeah, roughly how many memory boxes would you expect to use in a year?
Well, it's always,
average.
yes, it's always, right now, I mean, we're in the beginning of March. I have personally used 8 already this year. So they, obviously, that's 2 months in with 1 tomorrow. So it could be anywhere. It could be, I mean, it could be up to 50. We just, yeah, I mean, I hope it's never 50, and I hope it's never 1, but we can't always kind of plan, so I mean, there's a range that we use, and yeah.
But it could be 50.
It could be. It's very unexpected. We use them in our emergency department as well. When kids come in from car accidents or trauma codes, they're able to have the families are able to have those options as well, to be able to do memory making with the sibling, or not just the sibling, with the family, and we use them there. And like I said, I'm not even sure what the emergency department experience is in terms of bereavements. I just had my personal experience, and so it could be a lot, it could be a little. But we appreciate anything, even if it's 1, if it's 50, a million, whatever. We appreciate them all. So. Yeah. Is there any other questions, comments, concerns? Anything that I should touch back over? I know I talk a lot. I talk fast as well. So yes.
Our guild donates 400 or 500 toys a year. How many in total does the hospital get from other sources?
That is a good question. Like just toys in general?
Yeah.
I would say we probably have like weekly donations from groups and companies donating them, and just like some families who are like, hey, my kids got 50 toys for their birthday, they don't need this, and here is for you guys. So, wow, I don't know. A lot.
We're wondering if we're making an impact,
Oh, you guys are. I think you guys are, in the way that you guys are creative and something is put behind the work that you guys do. It is something different than what a toy you can get in a store. It's different than what you can go down the street, even to our gift shop, to buy something. So when we're able, because we're able to like mention, because we know your guys' toys, we are able to mention like who it's from and like what you guys do and the story behind it. And I know sometimes the kids like may not understand it at that point, but then the parents are like, oh my gosh, like that is so amazing, that's so wonderful, like, and then they're like, how can we give back? And so like it really is, you guys are making an incredible difference. And so again, I can't like say in words like how appreciative we are of all of you and the work that you put in. So yes.
Are there any particular toys that children just run to? Some that are, shall we say, better sellers than others?
Yeah.
Is there something that just fascinates them?
Well, cars. That is one of our biggest ones. I know airplanes are actually becoming something more popular these days. as well as dinosaurs. I don't know who's got, dinosaurs are a big hit these days, and I don't know where that came from, but if anyone knows how to make a dinosaur, let me know and then give it to me specifically. But yeah, cars are always a big one. And then anything for our like little girls, they love anything. Like I know over here, like particularly we have like the yellow ducky, and then we have like the pink rabbit. Those are always fun for our girls because maybe like sometimes they're not into the car, the race car thing, but they still like something that's like more girly kind of car-y. So that's something that they always look forward to, that there's something like a little girly for them. And then I mentioned like the pull toys. Those ones I specifically use a lot for mobility. So that's something that we're always looking for. Yeah. Yes.
For the girls, instead of the Reba boxes, could you do like a jewelry box or something they can put like their barrettes in?
Yeah, well, that's great. Yeah, I especially because those are items that can go in our McKenna's Beauty Bar, so that these girls are able to keep their bracelets, or we have like the little hair ties and barrettes, like their own personal space in the room.
Yeah.
They do have a closet, and I will say I feel like this is maybe at any hospital, the closets need to be upgraded. Personally, coming from a girl, they need to be bigger. So anywhere that they can be able to put their things and have something that's their own, or even maybe something that they can decorate themselves, is great as well. So yeah, that was a great idea. Anything else?
One of the things you mentioned was like stacking toys.
Oh yes, stacking toys. We love stacking toys. They can be like the round. We use the round. I don't even know what they're called, but they're like round, colorful rings. Yes. I'm not a parent yet, so I'm not well versed in the the toy names, but we use those. And then one that just reminded me of was sorting toys. So if you're able to like make like shapes, like a square or a circle, and then like a box with those like shapes cut out in the top of it, and so the kid is able to put that shape in the shape it matches. So it works on like matching, and then they're able to like open the box and like dump them out, and then they can do them again, and that helps as well. Yes?
What about wooden puzzle toys? Puzzles.
Yes.
Wooden puzzles that are painted in some kind of decoration that they can put together.
Yes, puzzles are one of our #1 things that we give out. That's something that kids are actually able to take home with them. So it's not just like a one-time in the hospital use, but those are able to be taken home, and then they can continue to use them. And puzzles are great for any age. I recently just got into puzzles and didn't. I have ADHD, I don't know if you could tell, but that is something that's like really helped me just like relax and calm and like focus. So that is something that we love puzzles. So wood ones are great too because they're durable too. Yeah. Anything else?
Lisa, we really appreciate you coming
Yes.
and helping us understand what we can do for you.
Yeah, no, thank you all. I can't appreciate it. Thank you. Go this way. Ooh, wait, this is so cute. It's like, thank you very much. It's handmade. You made it? So nice. I'm an emotional person. Like I actually might cry. Like, thank you so much. Shake it.
Well, guys, now you have a better idea where all your hard work is going.
And a lot more ideas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, for our main presentation, Dennis Heise is going to tell us his story about his clock. And I won't say any more. And Dennis?
Hi. So when Jerry talked to me back in October and November about possibly presenting on this project, I had hoped to be done by now. I'm probably going to need another month. But maybe in retrospect, it's not bad because you can see a bit more of what the insides look like. So you'll notice that this says reimagining an 18th century shelf clock not reproducing. And the reason for that is that I had no access to the original whatsoever. So much of what went into the construction of this came out of research and imagination and other factors that I'll get into. So real quick about myself, so when I hear people talk about woodworking for 35 years, I want to go crawl in a corner somewhere. My background is operations management, and then I switched over in the 80s into computer software, worked a lot as a business analyst and a solution engineer. I've dabbled with woodworking since the mid-90s, but I really only seriously pursued it in the last 5 years since I retired. Part of that was that I had a job that for the last 20 years of my career involved substantial travel. And when I say substantial, I typically did 80 to 90,000 air miles in a year, and quite often was gone 70% of the calendar year. So not a whole lot of woodworking happened during that time. I'm primarily self-taught, and a lot through trial and error. I learned a lot from people in SAPFAM, period furniture makers, and also from attending the annual 18th century woodworking conferences in colonial Williamsburg. So watch people do stuff, read books, take it home, try it. Anyway, so this is my shop. So anybody that went to Jeff's shop is like, this isn't Jeff's shop. This is 300 square feet in my basement. Oh, we do have it. Oh, okay, great, thank you. So it's roughly 300 square feet. I only work with hand tools with the exception of this 1947 Delta Rockwell lathe that I bought for $75 at an estate sale, including turning tools. Everything else, as you can see, is all manual. These are a few of the things I made in the last 5 years since I retired. And again, aside from the turnings, which are obviously done on the lathe, all the rest of it has been done by hand. All right, so here's my inspiration. The first time I encountered this clock was in a photograph someplace online. I'm guessing 10 years ago, give or take. And it wasn't this photograph, it was a different photograph. I think it was some sort of an exhibition, and it was actually in the background. It wasn't even, the main part of the photograph. But I was really fascinated by it because I'd never, ever seen a clock like this. And my first reaction was that maybe it was a marriage. So there's a lot of times where antique dealers will take pieces from two different pieces of furniture and marry them. And I thought, well, maybe somebody had a stand, they stuck a bonnet from a grandmother clock on it, but I thought, no, the wood looks too realistic, too bright. So anyway, I was trying to make sense out of it. And it certainly didn't look like anything I had seen before. This is more typical of a shelf clock, right, in the 18th century. And they're basically boxes, some fancier than others, right? You got the pillar and scroll down at the end, and the one in the middle is obviously very rudimentary. But this is more of what I thought it was. Well, after doing some research, what I found out is that this is a shelf clock made by a gentleman named Daniel Rose. And it was given to the governor of Pennsylvania around 1790. It is owned by one of the governor's descendants and was last shown publicly in 1995. And that was shown at an exhibition of Pennsylvania clocks. And that's where this photograph came from. I bought online a used copy of the exhibition catalog. And that was what I had. That was an 8.5 by 11-ish booklet. So, who's Daniel Rose? I had no idea. So it turns out that Daniel Rose was a very, very well-known clockmaker in the area of Berks County, Pennsylvania in the late 18th century, and supposedly was quite a character. He was very involved with music, played a lot of instruments, obviously liked to have his pictures painted, and I found it fascinating that he had a famous rose garden with busts of himself. So, quite a character. There are a lot of tall clocks made by Daniel Rose, but not these. So, this is woodworking, right? As I said, I just really got serious about this 5 years ago. Doesn't mean I hadn't fooled around with it before then. But when I looked at this clock, back again 10 years ago or so, I'm thinking, I got no business even thinking about trying to make this thing. I had no details aside from the height that was in the catalog, at 39.25 inches, and the wood was cherry. The only available view, as you saw, was straight on. The molding profiles and things like that were unclear. I had no idea what it took to make a clock, particularly an 18th century clock. I didn't know anything about clock movements. I had no experience at the time with marquetry, inlay, or carving. What in the world am I doing? And the form appeared unique. I couldn't find any other examples. So unlike a grandfather clock where you can buy how many different books that have plans for grandfather clocks, it's like, I can't find anything to give me any hint on this. Until one day, I got for a gift at Christmas the 3 volumes of Wallace Nutting. And when I was going through one of the volumes, I find this. So it's another example of the form. This one, a bit more ornate, it's got some carving on it, some shells and things like that. And all it said in the booklet was that the maker was unknown and it was attributed to Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, which is next over from Berks County. So now I know that this was some sort of a form. How popular it was, how many there were made, don't know. But keep in mind this quote about Henry Ford, because he actually turns up again in his story. All right, so I'm thinking about this thing, and I'm thinking, why didn't you ever see anything else other than these two of this sort of bonnet on stand form? And I started thinking about the fact that in 18th century America, there are great regional differences, right? And they're caused for a number of reasons, particularly distance and travel time between major cities, urban industrial and financial centers. Those customers were interested in displays of wealth and the latest styles. If you got out into the countryside, the woodworking became more practical, right? Not fancy. Sometimes the population emigrated, which means their training was from overseas and so forth. So some examples of these differences. On the left is a spice chest from Pennsylvania, and you can see that it's got a lot of inlay on it and the sort of ubiquitous line and berry decoration. And the one on the right is from Virginia, and they were very much into what they call the plain and simple, right? So regional differences. Get one at a time. Ball and claw feet, right? Philadelphia, you've got one form. In Boston, you have a similar form, except the side talons are curved towards the back. And then in Newport, you have these really long talons. Sometimes they actually open the area underneath them. Oops. And another example that maybe is a little closer, even these distances. So the clock on the right was made in New York City in the 1790s. It's mahogany, it's got crotch wood, it's got a decorated dial on it, very fancy. Whereas the one on the left is from the Dominy family that were on Long Island, less than 100 miles from New York City, but look at what they're producing, right? Very plain, very simple. Their customers are probably more of meager means than people in New York City. So again, all of this relates to why things are unique, but it doesn't really explain a lot about this clock. This is my opinion. I am not a furniture historian, it's just what I came up with. I think the reason that there were so few examples of this form of clock is one, the cost to make it. In other words, what you would have to pay the maker, right? So in the Philadelphia Furniture Price Book of 1772, adding ball and claw feet to a chair with crooked legs, which means a cabriole leg. It doesn't mean that the guy screwed up. Added roughly 20% to the cost. And the carving of shells added another 20%. So you can understand that this form of clock, compared to some of the ones I showed earlier, would be a substantial investment. And the other possibility is fashion. These clocks have Chippendale influences, but were made at the same time that Federal style was taking over. So they may have been perceived as out of date in the urban areas, right? Berks County is not New York City. So, I've got to create a drawing. I've got to come up with something, right, for this clock. So the first thing I do is I get this really bright idea, and I say that sarcastically. So I took the image and multiplied it times 4.17275 to get to 39¼ inches. And I created a spreadsheet, of which this is a very small number of rows. And I thought this was a good approach because I was traveling a lot and I could take a photograph and a ruler and sit in hotel rooms at night and just fill the spreadsheet. This leaves a lot to be desired, right? Number one, most of the, very few of the measurements were even accurate to 30 seconds. You're messing around with stuff, you're blowing it up, and I literally had hundreds of rows on this thing. It was not a really good approach, but it was something to keep me busy while I was traveling. And then one day, I got a better idea. So I increased the copy height, right? I went to the office, it was like 102%, oh, no, go down one, until I got to an image height of 9 7/8, which is 1/4 of the thing. And then I simply took dividers to the photograph. So I would go on the photograph, set the dividers, and then I would go over to my paper there, which if you look at it, has literally no measurements on it, because that's not the way they would have worked anyway. And I would just step off 4 times, make the mark, and develop the plan off of that, which was a lot faster and a lot easier, and probably a good deal more accurate based on the fractions that we see there. But I also wanted to understand why Daniel Rose created this, what was in his head. So that was another step. Didn't really have anything to do with getting the drawing so much as I wanted to understand what he was trying to do. And I kept in mind that if you get involved with period furniture, one of the things you really hear about is the use of proportions in design, right? They weren't necessarily sitting down with rulers. They were doing things off of proportions. So I decided I would try to do an analysis of the photograph. So I won't bore you with a lot of this, but the idea is that 18th century cabinet makers were using a great deal what they called artisan geometry. It's the ability to do geometry without having to do mathematics, right? So if you look at the classical orders of architecture, because furniture is in a sense, architecture, you've got the classical order of columns, and what you'll notice here, and again, I won't get too crazy, but you've got the various types of columns, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The bottom fifth is the pedestal, and then the ratios and all of that. So this whole thing is simply based on ratios and proportions. Translating that to furniture, here's an example of somebody designing a small cabinet using this sort of logic. So he starts with a square up at the top, and he goes, is that 6 or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyways, so the base is 1/6 the height, and then he goes up to the top 6, divides that by 3, it makes 1/3 the top, right? And then if you come over here, the top molding, divide it in 5, 2/3 in this, 3 in that. And anyway, you can sort of see that this whole design is simply based on proportions, right, and ratios. Here's another example, an actual 18th century lowboy. The analysis was done. So I decided to do the same thing. And what I find out is that the clock's proportions are 1 to 3. If I step this off with dividers, now, is it perfect? No, but it is so close that it really doesn't make any difference. If I go to 2 to 6, you get even more design clues. So the center of the dial is in the center of the piece. It's also 1/4 the height of the top. This is a square. So it's like, okay, he had to have been thinking somehow about what he was doing here. And the more I messed with this, the more I found. So the distance from the center of the knob to the outside of the surrounding inlay there is the same as the distance to the bottom of the drop. The distance from the knob to the center of the bullseye, which is a decoration, is the same height as the rose compass on the top. It also happens to be the distance from the center of the dial to the inner time ring. Is it a coincidence? I don't know, but you really start to wonder. And you find the same sort of thing in the hood. And then I found this one, which I found really, really interesting. This arch here is not a circle, right? If you look at it, you can see that the left side is much quicker than the right side, right? So you've got two different things here. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how do you do that? What is that? And by golly, what did I find? If I drew a line down from the transition and take this, right, and go across, this side is that arc. The right side, he did a line from here over, and it's the other arc. There's no way that that wasn't done with dividers. Anyway, so to move on. As I said, I don't know anything about clocks when I'm doing this, and I'm thinking, okay, what about the bonnet, right, the top? So I go and look at a number of magazine articles, and what I start to make sense out of is that on a grandfather clock, the The bonnet is a standalone unit, right? So the back of the clock goes the entire height, and the bonnet actually just sits on the top. You can remove it to get at the movement, and it's built that way, right? So the sides go into a little L-shaped platform. The back is open because it's going to go on the thing. It's got a dial frame that covers up the outside edge of the dial. And even though they're different tweaks, they're all basically the same idea. So I thought, well, that's a good start, but this thing can't be exactly the same way because there's no back on this to go all the way up on a grandfather clock. But it does help me start to understand the construction. And then one day, I run across this picture on the internet. And it's one of those things where you're doing a Google search, and instead of stopping after the first page, you keep clicking next, 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 and all of a sudden, I see this photograph and I go, that's the clock. And it was a very small photograph. And it's on a website for a company called Bowers Conservation out in Pennsylvania. So I sent an email to them. And I said, hey, I'd really like to try to do a version of this clock. What can you tell me? And he was really, really nice. So he sends me an email and he says, well, thank you. I did some minor restoration work on the clock in the 90s, and most of what he did was carving rosettes for the top, because the original rosettes were missing from the clock, and did a few extra things. He said, I took some measurements, I made some templates, because I thought maybe I could reproduce it one day, but I never really did. So he was very nice. He said, that photograph, he sends me a very high resolution of the photo, which was somewhat helpful. It was the only one he had. And he told me some things that I didn't know. The bonnet doesn't sit on the waist, right, like a grandfather clock. It's actually a box that goes down into the stand. It doesn't go down very far, but it goes down, and it essentially becomes the upper support for the drawer, right? So you keep the drawer in. The drawer in front, the drawer front is edged with an inlay of white wood, but the two surrounds around it are not inlays. They are solid pieces of wood that go the entire thickness of the anchor. And as I said, the rosettes were lost. He was also nice enough to send me photographs of his templates. Unfortunately, aside from the finials, there are no measurements, except for one thing. Like down here, he references 2-inch stock. By 2-inch stock, I'm guessing that that's probably more like 1 15/16 after it's been worked, right? On this one, the only measurement is 1 15/16, which is that circle. And over here, there are no measurements. However, I know from what I've done off the photograph and with dividers that I know the distance from the center of the front apron to the leg post. So I have that measurement. So how do I get all the other measurements? I go back to artisan geometry. If you have a length on an image and you know what the actual length is, you can plot a line with the length from that image, draw a perpendicular line, set your dividers to the actual length, put one leg here, and swing it down till it hits the perpendicular. That is the actual length, no math. So what that allowed me to do is go through the photograph, and on all these measurements that I couldn't figure out or they were too small, I just did the same thing. If you look at my drawing over there, in the upper right side, you'll see 3 or 4 of these where I worked out all the small dimensions without doing any dimensions, right? No measurements. Just using that trick. So I managed to make a set of templates. I brought a couple of them here. But I've still only seen 2 examples of this cloth. And then one day, I'm watching Antiques Roadshow. And they're showing a clock, and on the back of the clock, there's a label that says it's a carved mahogany ball and claw foot. Actually, it's walnut, made by Daniel Frost in Reading, Pennsylvania, given by Henry Ford to a friend of his. Well, it turned out that the friend and Ford were both at an auction in the 1920s and bid on a clock. Ford won. And then a month later, sent the clock as a gift to the other guy. And here's the clock. By golly, it's another one of these bonnet-on stands. And what the appraiser talked about in here is that the dial had been replaced or fixed, right? Had a lot of damage on it. And whoever did that, there must have been a lot of damage up here on the right side where the name is, and somehow or other, the person doing the, fixing up the dial decided that the last name was Frost. But according to the, to the appraiser, what in fact this was another clock by Daniel Rose. So, same form. It's obvious that the knee blocks have been lost over a period of time, but it was helpful to me because for the first time I seen what the inside of one of these things looks like. I also realized that because these don't have a back on them like a grandfather clock that goes all the way up, on this unit there was simply a sliding back. There was no door on the back or anything, and that's what I elected to do on mine. I figured if it was good for Rose, good for me. So, into the work. So, starting with the stand, as I said earlier, I work with hand tools. So I started by getting some 10-quarter cherry that had riffs on edges. Sawed out a bunch of leg blanks, mortised them with an old mortising chisel, made the drawer. So the way I did the drawer was I drilled some holes, cut around, and then planed the inside part of it so that the drawer front was, in fact, part of the original thing on the apron. And then ended up with sort of that. Good example of think before you do things, because I had put all that neat surround down there around the drawer opening. And then later on, after the leg posts were done, I realized that they weren't flush with the aprons. When I went to clean the aprons, I tore that all up. So thank God for hide glue, which is reversible. I removed them and ended up making new ones. But that's okay, lesson learned. For the legs, because the legs are so short, a lot of times on the taller legs, like for a table, they'll simply rough saw them, and then go from there. But because these were so small, there wasn't that much to cut off, so I elected to just use a turning saw and do what people do with a bandsaw, right? So I cut it out roughly to the pattern, tape that thing back on, turn it to the side, cut it again. Ball and claw feet, never done it before, but if you don't do something that you've never done before, you'll never do anything, right? So I did the feet, sort of the process, if you've ever looked at the instructions for doing ball and claw feet. I just read a bunch of stuff, did some examples in basswood. These are 3 of my trials, some of which were absolutely horrible, but they got a little better as time went by. They actually turned out not too bad.
Did you just chisel those out?
Yeah, those are all cut. Yeah, you can kind of see my hand down there. It's not a good thing, but yeah. Then the knee blocks. So the leg posts were made extra long. Cut the blocks off on the top and used those to make the knee blocks. You simply do the profiles, cut them a little bit, and then take a rasp and files to them. So in case anybody's never done this before, flattening boards with hand planes, right? So I usually start with an old wooden jack plane. Works perfectly fine. The cambered iron is quite severe. I usually go across the grain first to get rid of any cup, and then switch to an old Stanley Bailey to go across. And the big thing is binding sticks, right? When the gaps are the same on both sides, you're good. Then you flip it over, put a gauge line, and then put it down to that. It's going to be parallel. Good exercise. All right. So the bonnet box, basically plain. Did those with Stanley 45. The dovetail, the box is dovetailed. I've got through dovetails at the bottom with the tails on the sides, and then half-blind dovetails at the top with the tails on the top piece. So I sawed it all. And then for the little moldings that go around the windows, what I did was I had a piece of wood and, all right, so for the pediment. Pediment, basically draw the thing out, saw it out with a turning saw, and then use rasps and spoke shave. I still got some tweaking to do on that, but it's close. The little quarter round window moldings, all I did was took a cutting gauge, put it on the 2 corners of the board, took a block plane, got it kind of round, and then sanded it, cut them off, and put them in. All right.
Question.
Yeah.
On a bonnet, what thickness of wood did you start with? Did you rip it when it came, or plain?
So that was, it was some wood that was completely raw off the mill, and I think it was someplace around a fat 3/4. It had been sitting in somebody's shop for a long time, and then I planed it down to a 1/2 inch. Finials, I turned on my nice 80-year-old lathe. It's nice to have. This is actually amazing. This is an old Delta Rockwell lathe, and that thing is rock solid. It was made in 1947. I traced the serial number. Just really nice. So I turned the 3 finials. The center finial that goes in the middle is actually a different size. It's narrower than the 2 outside ones. I just brought one of them. They have to be carved, and that is a test that I did. Fortunately, not real challenging for somebody that's not a carver. Basically what you've got is 4 spots on the top, and it's a 1/3 twist around. So you can just make a channel and then put those 3 little lines in between. Go ahead. The moldings, so the waist molding, I just brought the piece there that obviously is meant to wrap all the way around it. I did that with a scrap stock. So the OG profile was at this end, the Astragal was at this end, so I had to make 2 passes. And just did those all out of the same board and then cut the pieces. The gooseneck, which goes up at the top, this is a trial that I was doing out of basswood. And a good example of why you need, when you're doing these things, you need to have it laid out with the grain going in the right direction, because the piece of basswood that I had it off kilter, so to speak, and broke out short grain when I was messing around with it. That thing scared me to death. And I read some articles on how to do it by hand. Most of the articles are like, oh, you buy a shaper blade, you go, and then that's it. The challenge with this one is that on this unit, on the original, the width of this actually narrows when it comes up here. So you really couldn't do it. What you have to do is you do this, and then this narrow, the code narrows as you go through it. Not a lot, but it does. Okay. And then the inlays, so there's 2 inlays, the little bullseye decoration at the bottom. So the way I did that was I had some black veneer, drilled a hole in the piece of maple veneer, glued it in, drilled a hole, did another piece with basically a window method. So you lay the hole on top of the other piece, poke around it with a scalpel, and then take it off and cut it. The rose compass, the way that I approached that after reading a couple references, is I took the 2 pieces of veneer and I glued them together rather than try to cut them all separately, and then cut a window, right, laid out the design, cut a window in it, and then I could cut them that way, and then assemble, which would have been a whole lot easier than cutting a right and a left, and then trying to glue even more together. So the rose compass ends up in the center of the pediment, up at the top here below the center thing, right? So it will be up here. Okay. The movement, somebody was asking me what I did about the movement. I did not want to get a quartz movement and put it in this thing. So I ended up buying a movement off of eBay for $50 that was pulled out of an old broken mantle clock. The movement was made by the Ingraham Company. There's a manufacture date on the plate of August 1908. I had it checked, cleaned, and adjusted in a local shop. It really wasn't the best option because typically in a bonnet type clock, the movement doesn't get screwed onto a baseboard, it sits on it. And unfortunately, this was designed, and you can kind of see the legs here, right? So it screws on. So it wasn't the best thing, but it's a good, reliable clock. The hands that came with it, you can kind of see it there, were way too small and not really appropriate. And the pendulum that the guy sent with it obviously wasn't with the original movement. I mean, it looks like it came off of some German clock. It's got a deer on it and everything else. Okay. So, once again, somebody helping. In Saptram, there is a member down in Florida named Troy Livingston, who's also an amateur horologist. And that doesn't mean he sells himself on the street, it means that he messes with clocks. So Troy was nice enough, Troy reached out to me because I posted a question on the forum somewhere, and he sent me a sheet of period hand designs and said, make your own. Shin stock, okay? Then he said, once you get them, send them to me along with the movement, and I will make the collet, right? So there's a round part for the hour hand that slips on the shaft, and he would cut the rectangular hole for the minute hand. So, if you go ahead and forward. So this is me making my own clock hands. Really not very difficult. Laid down the pattern on a piece of shin stock, cut it out, filed it.
Brass shim stock?
No, that's just cold steel. And I wanted to glue it at the end with chemicals so that it was glued a little bit like the original hands would have been. Okay, go ahead. This is when they were done. The paper is still on them. It was, I have to look, I think it was someplace around 20,000. Okay. And then this was a photograph Troy sent me, so he made all the stuff. Had the hands on there, was kind enough to send me a period appropriate pendulum, so that looks a lot nicer. And when I got the movement, it came with a gong. Troy said, nah, not the 18th century, no gongs. So he sent me a nice cast bell that I'm going to put in. He's a really nice guy. Didn't charge me anything. Okay. Making a dial. Like the hands, I can't buy a dial for this, right? It's an odd size, it's not a grandfather clock. So, what I did is I did some searching around and I found the Historical Society of Early American Decoration. And this is people, mostly female, but not completely, who are all into things like toll painting and clock dial painting and everything else. And they had a video online on how to do painted clock dials. So I figured, why not? So this is actually one that I did. You can see it's not complete. So the time rings are done with a compass, right? And a permanent ink, as are the numbers. I did those semi-freehand. You know, I had images, and then I just put them down with graphite paper underneath it, outlined them, and then sort of more or less freehanded them. I thought that the numbers were pretty bad. Troy sent me some photographs of 18th century dials and said, yours look almost as good as theirs. Because you got to figure these people were doing the same thing freehand. They didn't have stencils. As you can see, this was a disaster. So what I'm doing is I'm going to focus on the time ring and the numbering, and then I found a lady in Ferndale who is both an artist and a calligrapher, so she's going to do the lettering on the inside of the dial and paint, you know, do flowers and spandrels, and then something up in the arch.
What's the significance of the dots around the outside of the numbers?
So those are the minutes, but you can see that I didn't ink all of them when I was trying to figure out how to do it. And basically what I did with those, I plotted the dots, made a little quarter or half template, punched holes in it, put the dots on, and then I went back with a circle template and just laid it over it, tiny, whatever, 30 seconds, and just inked it. You do have to put tape or something at the bottom of it, otherwise when you move it, you'll ink, but worked okay. All right. So what's left to do on this? I'm hoping to have this done by the end of next month. I've got to mess with the pediment, inlay the rose compass at the top, carve and install those top moldings, carve the finials, complete the dial frame. So the dial frame is a little frame that goes inside the door, right? And what it does is it covers the outside edge of the dial where there's screws and everything else. And that will ride in the grooves here in the front. Make the door, finish the remaining parts. If by finish, I mean finish, put finish on it, get the dial painted, and that's all the movement. I was hoping to have this done by the time of this, but didn't really work out. One more. So the finish is 3 coats of Minwax antique oil, which I found to be a really, really neat thing. It was like $14 a can. You put it on, you wait 5 minutes, you rub it off, and you do a couple, 3 things, and it provides an actually quite nice finish, at least on cherry. Unfortunately, Minwax discontinued it about 1.5 years ago.
Less than a year ago.
Yeah. And amazingly enough, there are people on eBay, so these came in quart cans, that are selling partial cans for like $75. So I had about a half a can, and I wasn't sure I was going to have enough to finish it. But I had some left over, and then when I was in Williamsburg in January for a conference, I was talking to one of my buddies from South Carolina, and he said, I have some left in the can at home. So he sent me his can, and between the two, I've got enough. The interior got a coat of blonde shellac in a 1 pound cut. The knobs are from Portland Brasses. The clock door hinges will be are from Merritt's. So clock door hinges on this are not hinges like we think of on the side. It's a pivot that sits at the bottom of the top and allows the door to swing out. Right? Go ahead. So Minwax's website says that antique oil is 25% oil linseed oil, 25% alkyd varnish, and 50% mineral spirits. Prior to getting that can, I experimented a little bit trying to do it myself, and I ended up with a blend of 30% PLO, 30% non-urethane spar varnish, 40% turpentine, and it gave me pretty much the same results. But yeah, but now that I got the good stuff with the pre-made stuff, it's easier. Okay. And then lastly, thanks to David Bowers, who gave me the templates and the pointers, Troy, who helped with the movement, my buddy Rick Yoakum, who gave me this half can of antique oil, the Society of American Period Furniture Makers, who has taught me a lot, as well as the historic trades community of Colonial Williamsburg. I learned more stuff by going to their symposiums every January than I could get on my own forever. Okay. Any questions? I don't know, that was a lot. Yes, sir.
Great. When you finished it,
yeah,
you honor us by bringing it in?
Yeah, I'll bring it back.
Great.
Yeah.
This is a picture. What goes in the window inside?
Glass.
Just glass.
Yeah. Anybody else?
When you're talking about a finish, let's say we lived, 400 years ago or whatever, what would we have put on it? What regards was started by Minwax.
So, you're right, it would have been Minwax. Chances are it would have been a spirit varnish, which is shellac, or a rudimentary varnish, right? So they would take oils and dissolve resins in them. They would sometimes do it with shellac too, right? So you warm it and then put various resins in there like cobalt and dissolve the resins, and you're essentially making a varnish. Not something that I would want to try because you heating it, you're heating oil or turpentine and running the risk of a fire, so.
Good in the kitchen, it's all right.
Yeah, I've never had the desire to do it. My wife had a fit when I was doing heat treatment on a homemade plane blade and had it out in the garage and dipped it in hot oil and what? Well, what? Anything else? Yes?
Yes, if you need some more antiquing, I'll have several cans of it.
Oh, okay.
From your $75.
Yeah, it's a surprisingly good finish for $14.
Yeah, I use it occasionally.
Any other questions?
Could you,
Oh, yes.
Could you describe a little more about your process of making the your scraper, the
Oh, the scratch stock?
the scratch stock? Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially with scratch stock, you're going to make a handle, right? Particularly L-shaped, and you cut a slot in it. And then you can take old saw blades or scraper blade or whatever, and you have to make a negative profile, put it in the slot, clamp it down with screws, and then just slowly go back and forth.
How do you get the shape? How do you get the profile shape transferred onto that?
So what I typically do is I have the marking fluid, blue, right, and just paint it on there, put a paper template on it, scratch around it, and then grind with a grinder as close to the line as I can, and then finish up with files. If you're doing anything round, chainsaw sharpening files work really good for that.
You have to grind your file all in one direction to get the, what do you call it, on the scraper? The burr.
There's no burr on those.
Just square.
Yeah, yeah. So this is, it's not like a cabinet scraper where you turn a burr on it.
Right.
With a scratch stock, there's no burr. You just have it, you know, square.
So it's not even back cut then?
No,
You
no.
have to
It's
pressure
square,
the
and
edge
then you
after.
polish both sides of it, because you end up typically having to go in more than one direction with it. But yeah, there's no burr.
So to do the diminishing profile, you had two scratch stocks, one for the top half and one for the bottom, and you bring them together?
No, so what I did with the molding that's on the waist there is I took the scratch stock and I'm trying to remember which one I did first. I think I did the astragal first, a little round on the front. So I put it this way in the vise, scratched it, and then turned it the other way and put it on a sticking board, right, with little screws to hold it in place, and then scratch the other side. Anything else? Okay, oh, yes.
You want to do a demonstration on scratch stock? I couldn't, I mean, I wish I can't even match it.
Oh, yeah, I guess we could do that one time. If Jerry's open to it. So I know that, I know that a lot of people that, are in the group are not into 18th century furniture, but I think it's a good way to learn about not just the time period, but the methods that they had to use and the design things and everything else. So, thank you.
Anything else? All right. That ends the formal presentation. Any questions on anything, or anybody just got a few minutes, but any woodworking questions, or anybody want to say anything? If not, if you guys would help and just put the chairs on the little carts, we'll bring them out. Oh, we got one question here.
Anybody who used the antique oil finish have a close alternative that they like?
Mix your own.
Mix your own, three-part. We learned how to use a third, a third, a third.
Yeah.
So it's just tongue oil,
the tongue oil?
But pure tongue oil, not
The boiled, well, the one that I did was boiled linseed oil, spar varnish, but make sure it's not urethane, and not urethane, and then either mineral spirits or turpentine, depending on how much you can or can't deal with the odor.